Good evening. It is Tuesday, October 17th, 2023 at 6 p.m. We are at the District Service Center in Cottage Grove, Minnesota. We would like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the land of the Minnewacaton Dakota people. Minnewacaton means dwellers of the Spirit Lake. Our first item on the agenda is our roll call. Dana?
Present.
Here.
Here.
Here. Here. Here.
Present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our next item we have is 3.0, and that is the approval of our agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second. Louise and Melinda.
Who?
Louise and Melinda.
Louise and Melinda, okay. Any discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is carried. The next item on our agenda is 4.0, comments to the board. At this time, individuals may speak to the board on any item related to South Washington County Schools. The board will not respond to or discuss your comment, character abuse, or specific complaints identifying staff, students, or task force members will not be permitted. Each speaker is permitted to speak for up to 3 minutes in total. At 3 minutes, the microphones will be turned off and we will move on to the next speaker or the agenda item. We have 2 people who have signed up tonight. Deanna Levin, please come forward. It's 5.0, and that is our consent agenda items.
Oh. All consent items are considered routine and non-controversial by the school board and will be approved by a single motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. Prior to this meeting, board members have had the opportunity to review each of these items and may request that any item be moved to the action items for individual consideration. Can I get a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Moved by Pat, seconded by Eric. Sorry, Eric. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you. Next is 6.0, information items. 6.1 is the bond information update, and that will be presented this evening by our Superintendent, Julie Nielsen.
Thank you. I feel like the last couple of weeks I've done so many different presentations. I'm never quite sure which slide deck is going to come up, but I'm certain there's going to be a slide deck up here soon, and I'm going to go with it. This is how well I know the information. We have, of course, been out on the information campaign trail, sharing information with any groups that will listen. This evening I wanted to give the board just kind of a summary of the information as we go into the last week. So if we can click ahead on the slide. Or Sean, if you can click ahead on the slide for me. My magic look isn't working tonight. So if we take a look at how we got here, it's interesting as we've been out, as people have kind of engaged, they've been with us, they left a little bit, they're back engaged now as we get closer to the election, but how did we get where we're at? Since August of 2022, we have held 8 community listening sessions and staff sessions at each site, and we kind of described it as a listening session, asking questions, gathering feedback. And we did that back and forth at least 3 times where we gathered information back and forth. As part of that, we did a community survey, which we have used those results and what we heard from our community, as well as a new demographic study done by Hazel Reinhardt, who was our first state's demographer. We hosted 3 community feedback sessions that really took a look at the 5-year plan. And throughout these sessions, we heard overwhelmingly about the importance of safety and security in our school district. And so, of course, as board members and in our community, that is kind of the thread that is woven throughout all of what people will see on November 7th. Residents shared at that time that any increase in taxes should be kept to no more than $9 to $11 on that median valued home. And again, and we got asked this question last night in a session about the 5-year plan. And the reason the district went from the 10-year to the 5-year plan was because we can actually predict more accurately the students because our kindergartners are already born. And so if you recall, we talked about that capture rate from the county. We know the approximate percentage with the births that are born. We know the capture rate for South Washington County schools. And so we are very hopeful as we look at our enrollment, and we're almost spot on, plus or minus 5 to 10 students depending on the day. And so these final slides this evening, as we go into the last couple of weeks, really give a breakdown. And last board meeting, board members asked for some of this information. But as we look at the breakdown for our bond questions, again, bonds are for buildings. You will see by our middle schools, Cottage Grove Middle, Lake Middle, Oatman Middle School, and Woodbury Middle School, you will see the dollar amounts after that. You will see that the lowest dollar amount, Cottage Grove and Lake Middle School, $3.8 million. That is for their secured entryways, and the reason it's the same is because the schools are almost identical. And then, of course, Oatman Middle School has the secured entryway, but the $25.8 million is for the planned addition. And then Woodbury Middle Schools is slightly higher than Cottage Grove and Lake because in addition to their secured entryway, they also have the renovation of the pool area and filling that pool area in so that above it now can be usable space. And then for our high schools, this was a question that we have gotten, just the investment in each of our 3 high schools and what does that look like. Eastridge with the planned addition would be $35.8 million, Park High School $38.6 million, and Woodbury High School $42.7 million. And so as we've shared, while there's a new addition going on to, or I should say the planned new addition that would go on to Eastridge High School, you can see by the dollar amounts that there are some extensive renovations and remodeling being done to both Park and Woodbury High School. And that rounds out question 1, $160 million, $5 per month on that median valued home of $409,000. As we move to question 2, the high-level summary of $40 million. Bailey Elementary, Gray Cloud, Pine Hill, and Red Rock, those are the 4 elementary schools currently that are at capacity or over capacity. So you can see the amount of those planned additions, and again, slightly different depending on the elementary school. And then finally, the $6.9 million in the investment in the elementary bathrooms at 5 of our 1960 schools. So again, when we look at and consolidate bond question 1 and 2, you will see $200 million or the approximate cost of $6 a month on that median valued home. And then just a reminder, question 2 is contingent on the passage of question 1. And again, for those that ask, it's because consistently throughout the process, the items in question 1 were prioritized at the very top every time we went back and forth between our community and staff and back to our drawing plan. So as we look at our question 3, and some people are kind of forgetting about that question 3, but it includes our technology project levy. And up there it talks about what the technology project levy is. But what we're asking as part of this technology projects levy is to revoke and renew the existing levy and increasing the annual funding from $2.8 million to $5 million. And in this slide deck, I just wanted to double check. In this slide deck, we don't have the comparisons of other districts, but it's important to note that if we look to our neighbors to the east, Stillwater Public Schools, Stillwater, I believe, levies for $10 million or approximately $500 and some dollars per student. And we also know that Rochester will be out on the ballot because of their cyber attack for $10 million as well. And so that leaves South Washington County Schools with an average of $463 for those that utilize this format. That leaves us right now at $137. And so with this additional $2.2 million, it would bring us to about $230, $240 per student. That is dedicated funding for technology. And in this slide, you also see how we've structured it so that we can take a look at the infrastructure and security as well as the teaching and learning side. And so for the most part, that $5 million of requests, plus probably a little bit more, would take care of that dedicated funding for technology. And this is just a high-level look at all 3 questions. So we've kind of kept them all separate, but as we look at all 3 questions, 5.1 for the bonds, and question 3, because it is a levy, is $3 on that median valued home, or $9 monthly, for a total of $111 a year. And then consolidated onto one slide is what if the bond questions don't pass. Bond question 1, the secured entryways would be put on hold. The overcrowding would continue as we discussed. We are not going to be changing high school attendance boundaries, but should it fail, we will certainly spend the year studying and taking a look at what other options we would have. Included in that would be reviewing grade configurations. Do we need to go back and take a look at 6th grade going to elementary, 9th grade going to middle, and then what would that do for our high school? So I think we have some other options that we can explore should it not be successful. And then finally, as I shared, if bond question 1 fails, so does bond question 2, which as part of that would mean those elementary attendance boundaries would kick in beginning next fall, 2024. And I believe I just shared the only exception, bond question 2, if that is not successful alone. So if bond question 1 passes and bond question 2 fails, we would still have the elementary attendance boundary changes along with the slight adjustment to the middle school boundaries just to keep those students from elementary going with the same group of kids to middle school. And then finally, the technology projects levy, should that not be successful, we would continue to utilize general fund dollars for technology. And then we just need to realize that our existing tech levy that we have in place right now would be set to expire in July of 2026. And this is just the reminder for any of those schools, as we talk about the 4 schools right now that are experiencing overcrowding, we want to make sure that through some targeted communication that our families are going online. Nowhere have we individually published or people haven't gotten letters if you're impacted by attendance boundaries. But we've put the information out there so families can plug in their address and it will actually show them their elementary, their middle, and their high school. And then just election information campaign and what have we done online. There's a video by your superintendent. I hope that got a lot of clicks, Sean. I don't think you gathered that for me. Our Vote 2023 website has voting information, bonded levy information, along with school board candidate forum video. So that is online. If you clicked on our facility planning website, you would see the video, the tax calculator, the boundary change tool, extensive FAQs, and a resource toolkit. And so along with that as well, newsletters and our social media posts. So a lot of information out online. And then this is just another look. I'm not going to read through it, but you can take a look as we think about the various groups that we're interacting with, staff, families, and community. And specifically when we talk about community, what have we done different this campaign that we didn't do last August? And you all recall that many members in our community that didn't have children in the district said they weren't aware. And so you can take a look underneath the community column to see that we have taken a lot more steps throughout the course of the year to make sure that we're engaging with not only the families that have students, 30%, but also the 70% that no longer have children or perhaps never had children in our school district. And Sean and our communications team gathered some of the analytics behind the scenes. And on our full district website, if we look, and they're of course just numbers, but we had 7,000 visitors who clicked on 12,000 or had 12,000 different views. So everyone at least did one view, some perhaps did two. And that was about 30,000 events, or the various buttons we have on, they can just click on that, and that showed that there were 30,000 clicks. It's important to note something that communication does very well is when they put the stories together, for the most part, you don't need to click around within the story to get the full story. The full story is usually out there. As it relates to email, our Vote 2023 newsletter sent to about 32,000 people, and our open rate was 53%. And so from Sean's perspective, he thought 53% was really pretty good. And then about 2% click rate, which is low, but again, I think it tells the story that the story is there and people don't need to do a lot of clicking around. And then finally, our Connect Family newsletter, that again goes out to our families in the district, sent to about 26,000 people. And you can see that that open rate was 56%, so slightly higher than our Vote 2023 newsletter. And this week, each week we're having different questions out there. So we continue to answer the question, what is a bond? What do you need a referendum for if schools were given extra funding? We really try to focus on that 4% and 2% for the state really is on the operational side. And someone at one of our community meetings last week, I think it was last week, shared with it, so when you talk about a bond, you're talking about the school district really having a mortgage. And I thought, that's it. A bond is like a mortgage. Families typically don't have enough money to purchase their house with cash, and so they have to mortgage. And so I think that's another way for us to think about a bond. It's like taking out a mortgage on our house. What happens if any of the bond questions or the technology levy fail? We just went through that. If question 1 fails, will there be boundary changes for middle and high school? And the answer is no for question 1. And then the third question, as they took it off the screen, will the pool at Woodbury High School close if question 1 passes? And our response to that right now, as it has been with the restrooms and overall design, we don't have the designs even started because that phase of the work doesn't begin until after the bond is approved. But what we do know at Woodbury High School is that the pool is in close proximity to the cafeteria. And we know that that is one space that needs some major overhauling in terms of opening things up so students have access to getting lunch and waiting in lines. And so the individual who attended one of our community meetings, we did talk about our 4th pool. And for the board to know that we do have a 4th pool, it's considered our community pool located down by Nuevas Fronteras. And so that pool actually was used during the pandemic. It's in great condition, and it very much, in terms of size and the amount of water it holds, is almost identical to the Woodbury High School pool. So I think just to know that we do have a 4th pool that we could bring online. And then finally, 2 weeks until the election, our Connect Print newsletter hit mailboxes, or will hit mailboxes next week. And remember, our Connect is what we're calling our quarterly mailing. So in there, family and residents will get to see some highlights from the school district on how our year started out, along with referendum information. As part of that newsletter, we also communicated a third community meeting set for November 1st. And so we intentionally put that out there, so once people get the mailing, if they have questions, they can come back to an in-person session. So we're planning on November 1st for that. We have weekly election 2023 newsletters that will go out to staff and families. And then as we hit the last couple of weeks, we're also going to do targeted mailings out to families, so that those schools that are overcrowded, that they know specifically to go on and check your boundary calculator. So we are doing everything we can to make sure people have the information. We will also have Vote 2023 yard signs placed next week. And again, that's just the district's reminder to be informed and be sure to vote. Email and text message will go out to families, as well as our system leaders will be doing presentations for district staff and school staff. And our final asks. Staff to get out to the polls and vote. We're hoping that teachers, as much as possible, call families and remind them of the election. Ask staff and families to watch the League of Women Voters and the School Board Candidate Forum, to share bond, levy, and election information with neighbors and friends in the community. We've been super intentional with our communication that if you know you have a neighbor who doesn't have children in school, bring them to an event. But we are asking that anyone at this point who isn't aware, please try to draw them in and bring them along. And as I shared, November 1st will be an information session. And then finally, with 11 candidates running, we have 3 open board seats. And again, our website, that is very detailed, SoWashCo.org/facility planning. Any questions from the board as we review kind of the consolidated? This is the last run publicly that we will do. We still have a number of information sessions out there.
Board members, Pat?
You remind everybody that they can vote now?
Yes, yes, voting is open, and we actually have had, obviously, if people are looking where to vote, minvotes.org, but yes, voting has already opened. So we have a number of people who have already shared that they have been to the polls, and from what I've heard, the traffic is really light, and so it's easy, it goes quickly. So yes, not just November 7th, we do have early voting as well. Thank you.
Any other members? Okay, thank you, Julie.
You're welcome.
Next is 7.0, and that is our action items. And that is 7.1 is proposed policy changes, and that will be presented by our Superintendent, Julie Nielsen.
Thank you again. Next, I'm bringing forward the approval of our proposed policies in our 500 and 600 series. We have 2 500 series, 526 hazing prohibition and 527 student use and parking of motor vehicles. In our 600s, 606 textbooks and instructional materials, 607.1 early entrance to kindergarten, 611 homeschooling, and 615 was around testing accommodations and modifications. And so this evening, after the review by our policy committee and a first reading last meeting, I am asking for final approval on those 6 policies.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the policy?
So moved.
Moved by Melinda,
Second.
seconded by Simi. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Next is 7.2, and that is our Minnesota State High School League grants, and that will be presented this evening by Assistant Superintendent Tyrone Brookins.
Good evening, Chair Van Leer, school board members, and Superintendent Nielsen. Tonight, I would like to seek approval for the resolution for application to the Minnesota State High School League Foundation. The request tonight is for parts A and B of the Minnesota State High School League grant. This is a grant where we have applied for each year and have received from the High School League. Part A of the grant is awarded to school districts to assist and promote extracurricular participation by high school students in athletics and fine arts. Schools receive funds based on the number of students participating in Minnesota State High School League activities that qualify for free or reduced lunches. Our activities directors have used these funds to buy equipment and uniforms and pay fees for students in need. Part B of this grant is used for funds for activity directors to work with student captains and student leaders for fine arts, activities, and athletics. Park High School, Woodbury High School, and East Ridge High Schools have requested grants in the Category B application of student leadership training. These funds will be used to continue high schools' leadership development programming, which includes bringing in speakers to talk with students about being a student leader and having book studies on leadership skills. The student leadership groups meet monthly. As part of this application, the Minnesota State High School League requires Board of Directors resolution requesting funds from the Minnesota State High School League Foundation. At this time, I would like to seek approval of the resolution to request funds from the Minnesota State High School League Foundation grant.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution?
So move. Second?
Okay, this is a resolution. Dana?
Yes.
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 Yes. Motion is carried. Thank you. Next is 8.0, and that is our superintendent's report, and that will be given by our superintendent, Julie Nelson.
You just keep allowing me to talk here. But here goes. I know that some of you have conferences, so we're going to get out of here so you can get to your children's conferences. It is conference season, and it's really hard to believe that we are halfway through the month of October. But just as a reminder, tomorrow, October 18th, is an unusual day in the school district in terms of student attendance. Our K-5 students are actually off, as the day was put in earlier. We have our pre-ACT, our 10th and 11th graders will taking the pre-ACT. Our 9th and 9th and 12th graders will be learning asynchronously, and our middle school friends are going to be in session tomorrow. So it's a little bit of a tricky, awkward day, but that is October 18th. And then just a reminder that Thursday and Friday is the MEA break, and so we will have no students in session. And then finally, just for the board, we have been out doing a lot of informational presentations, sometimes running from one to the next. And just to give an update, we did the St. Paul City Council last night. The League of Women Voters, much like the Candidate Forum, also did a taping of our informational session that will be online, and just an opportunity to answer questions. We did a group of seniors. We have done East Ridge Athletic Association, our system leaders. We did retired staff, the Woodbury Chamber. We held 2 community meetings, one in person and one virtual. And then as you heard tonight, we will do another one on November 1st. We held our advisory meetings, so any members of our advisory teams, one of our 11 advisory teams. And then I believe tomorrow we have Woodbury Equity Alliance. And so we have really been out, and I encourage, if there are any groups, anyone listening, if you have any groups of people that would like to hear the information, please don't hesitate to reach out. We will share information with anyone that would like to hear about our school district and the 2 bond questions and the capital projects question. Thank you.
Hey, Julie. Is there, for the 10th and 11th graders, is there busing tomorrow?
Yes. Yep, there's busing for any schools in session,
Okay.
or any students that are in session.
The busing's at the regular time, though, and they're going to be done with their testing by like 12:30.
Yep, so the buses
they
won't-
wait at
yep.
school until the.
The buses won't run early because the middle school run will go first, and then the high school will. Good question, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, we are at 9.0, our future meeting dates. We have a school board workshop meeting on November 2nd, 2023, and a school board business meeting on November 16th, 2023. Both meetings will be held at 6 p.m. here at the District Service Center. And now we are at 10.0, and we are adjourned.
I don't think we've ever had such a short meeting.